Welcome to our tutorial on trikonasana. So this is part of the series of yoga building blocks and how we start to build our own home practice. So there's a number of different ways that we can enter trikonasana, either from downward facing dog or alternatively from standing at the front of the mat and stepping back into the pose and then returning to that space. We've got trikonasana, we've got revolved, which is triangle pose, revolved triangle pose, reverse triangle, some people call it falling star, all sorts of different things, different hand placements. So we're going to cover some of the key points here. So don't think that when you go into the pose automatically that you're doing it wrong, because there are so many different variations and it gets called, people call it a myriad of different things. So triangle pose in a Bikram series is going to be different to a triangle pose in a hatha practice or a vinyasa practice. So you can be mindful of that. So don't feel compelled or dogmatic about one way to practice triangle versus another way. Use the practice or use the one that is working for you, and then challenge yourself with some of the variations on that. So we're going to come to our triangle pose from downward facing dog. So come onto the knees. Press the hands into the earth, make sure they're like starfish underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes, lift the hips. So we're going to step forward with the left foot here. So just inhale that foot forward between the hands. We're going to turn the back foot out to 45 degrees, and this is going to bring us up and into our warrior two pose. We're going to straighten through the leg. Now I'm going to look down at my feet. I'm going to want to do a little bit of an adjustment here. Where I want is this heel to be in line with the center of the arch of the foot at the back here. So this foot is currently at 90 degrees. You can move that so that it's sort of more at 45 degrees here, and that way you don't have that massive rotation of the outside of the hip. We're going to lift up and straighten through the front leg. So to get into our trikonasana, or this particular variation, we're going to lift the hands up so that their arms are at shoulder height. We're opening through the chest, separating the ribs away from the hips, grounding the feet into the earth. We're actually rolling into the outside of the foot so that we can feel that lift up through the inner thighs, and it's almost as though we're stretching the mat away or stretching the feet away, trying to pull the mat in opposite directions. We take those hands back up here. So to get into our triangle pose, what we're going to do is really extend through the left-hand side of the body. So without sort of compensating or without crushing into this side of the body, we really want to, as I said, lift the ribs away, or lift the ribs away from the hips, and then shift the body weight to the left. So we're really feeling that stretch there. You can actually get your Saturday night disco hip on here and press that hip out to the side, which is going to elongate and keep that lovely amount of space in and under the left. And we're also creating that space down the side of the right side of the body. So it's almost like moving geometry, or moving origami even. We're going to drop that left hand down to the earth just in front of the left foot and reach the right arm up high. Now you can start, if that extended arm is just a little bit too much, you can drop that hand down to the hip. If you can't reach to the floor, you can bring that hand onto the shin until you start to make those adjustments through the posture that are going to work for you. So I'm going to take my hand back down to the floor. Again, feel free to drop the hand here. You can use a little support. You can also bring a block to the front of the foot here. So reaching up through that top right hand. What we want to do is, keeping this extension underneath the body, see if we can rotate the body upwards. So that's where this little bit of pressure on the shin here is nice, so that we can actually feel that rotation. What we want, or what we're aiming for, is to feel like the body is between two panes of glass. So we're drawing the hips open here, tucking the pelvis, drawing the tummy in, lifting through the perineum so that we're engaging through the core, feeling length in the side body here, and the continued opening and extension of the underneath the side, which is my left side right now. Then as we move into the posture, of course, breathing, inhale creates a little bit of length, exhale creates a little bit of depth. So you can use that arm to look up and find a little bit more twist, a little bit more length, and you can hold there for as long as you like. So some of the variations here include taking the arm over the top of the head, just elongating that right side of the body, and you can even lift that left hand, finding that extra strength inside, returning that hand. So we're going to come down to our reverse triangle. So we're just going to make a little bit of an adjustment with the feet here. So place both hands on the floor. If you can't reach the floor with both hands, use blocks either side of the foot here. I'm going to turn my back foot in, so I'm really looking at that 35 to 45 degree mark now. We want to square off the hips, so notice I've just made a little bit of an adjustment with my back foot, and my front body, well, my back body is extended and my front body is lifted. So I've hinged forward from the hips here, trying to find that flat back. My core is still engaged and I'm lengthening through the spine. So in order to take this revolved triangle, you can start with the hand on the inside of the foot and then lift through that left arm, lifting and elongating. Or alternatively, you can take this right hand, place it on the outside of the foot, and if you would like to use a block, you can put that block on the outside of the foot here, and you're going to press that hand into the earth and then lift up into your revolved triangle. So you can take a little bit of a bind here so that you're opening a little bit further through the chest and finding that twist. You can keep the arm lengthening up to the ceiling. So just for the purpose of this, I'm going to turn around to the other side. I'm going to set myself up. Probably wasn't the nicest transition we've ever seen. Taking the left hand on the outside of the right foot. What we want to do is keep the hips square here. We're pressing that back foot into the earth, pressing the front foot into the earth. Now what happens is we kind of tend to rock and roll around here because we haven't distributed the weight evenly. So as we square the hips and ground the feet into the floor, we're actually pressing the big toes into the earth. So spreading the toes and pressing the toes here, squaring the hips, drawing the tummy into the spine, finding length through the back body is going to help your stability in this space. So again, it's feeling like you're pressing down into the mat, lifting through the inside of the thighs here and engaging the glutes. Taking the left hand, placing it on the outside of that right foot, and then we can lengthen here and lift through the body as we twist and look to that top right hand. And we can release back down. I'm going to have a slightly nicer transition here where I just step to the front of the mat, come through my Uttanasana and lift all the way up. So when we look at variations on our triangle pose, stepping the foot out, stepping the foot back, you might find that some people take a triangle pose from a warrior two, dropping down into here. That was a nice little crack of the hip then, and lifting up through the side body. You might see reverse triangle, which sometimes I like to call yoga the musical, because I feel like I'm at the end and going, yeah, like maybe Lady Gaga at the end of a song. You can even take it a little bit further where you're sliding that hand down the back leg and opening up through the front body. And that creates that length so that you can journey back in to trikonasana on the other side. So a much nicer transition than my original one. You can take the hands down to the mat and you can step it back for plank and then take a vinyasa, pressing back, downward facing dog, dropping it down to our hero's pose. So there's some variations on our trikonasana today. As I said, there's lots of little nuances in there. Don't feel like when you're going through the posture that you need to make these extraordinary adjustments or, challenge yourself for that 2 arm lift straight away. The micro adjustments, lifting up through the inside of the thighs, pressing the feet down into the earth, drawing the core, twisting and lifting through the chest, like engaging the mula bandha or the core, which is actually squeezing up and lifting the perineum, shifting the ribs away from the hips. All these little micro adjustments are the things that change the posture for you. And you might hear little pops and cracks along the way, and that's perfectly fine. It's not like your leg's going to fall off. It won't fall off, I promise you. That's just like little air pockets, just things shifting around in the body and change happening. So go forth and practice, my friends. Take your trikonasana, create some triangles, that moving art, that moving geometry. Enjoy. Namaste.